It's wonderful to be here in Taipei and with my colleagues from Yahoo and my new colleagues from the Digital Publishing Forum to talk about the future of digital content. And as was described in the wonderful introduction, part of my job at Yahoo as chief scientist of Yahoo Mobile and as vice president of ESP, which is early stage products, but also ESP, is to imagine and invent the future of mobile, social, media, monetization, and platforms. To understand and to imagine where we are going as Yahoo, but also as the world in the future of digital content. So to help us imagine what this future is going to look like, I first want to ask you all 4 questions. So the first question is, how many of you read text, any form of written documents, on a daily basis? I would think most of you read text every day. Given that we're in the library, I would hope so. Now, how many of you write any form of text, any form of writing on a daily basis, every day? I would think most of you would do that too. Now, please be honest, you're not being recorded. How many of you look at photographs, listen to audio recordings, or watch any form of moving pictures, any form of video on a daily basis? Looking at photos, pictures, or video every day? Great, everyone. Now, how many of you take photographs, record original audio, or record original video every day? And that's probably your job too, right? You're a photographer. So what do we see? We see that in text, we have a symmetry between production and consumption. We all read and we all write text. But in the areas of photos, video, and audio, we have an asymmetry in production and consumption. All of us consume photos, video, and audio every day, but most of us don't produce it. That, however, is changing in a way that will completely transform digital content. In a world where billions of people every day are not only texting and using voice, but using pictures and audio and video to communicate with each other every day, recording and collecting a view of what is interesting and worth paying attention to all around the world on a daily basis. And in my work over the last 20 years, from the MIT Media Lab to Interval Research, to Amova, the startup I did, to UC Berkeley, where I was a professor, and now to Yahoo, where I've both founded a research lab and am chief scientist and head of ESP. We are creating a world in which each of us every day become producers, not only consumers of content. So when we talk about social media, that's the world we're talking about. Media made by and for users and communities. And many people do this now. You're taking pictures, you're recording video, recording audio, and sharing it. You're taking notes, sending emails, posting blogs, status text, SMS. The content that you create, that you share with people that you know and people that are interested in you. Media made by and for users and communities. So this has really transformed the internet in the last 5 years. Right? Tremendous volumes of information now are created and shared by literally 1 billion people around the world every day. But social media is something else I think even more interesting for people here in the Taiwan. Social media is a different type of business model. It's a business model in which your customers are your suppliers. So what do I mean by that? One of the great successes at Yahoo that I really love is what we call Yahoo Answers. It originated in Taiwan. It was created as it's Knowledge Plus, I believe, is what it's called here in Taiwan. And that's a system where I can ask a question and I can get an answer. I can ask anything and I'll get an answer. I was traveling in Japan and I didn't know what the size is of a full-size bed. It's a certain type of bed size. And I did web search and I tried to find the answer and I couldn't get it. And so I went to Yahoo Answers and I said, how big is a full-size bed? And in 2 minutes, I got answers back from 7 people. Several of which gave me exactly what I wanted. And the thing is, I was an artificial intelligence researcher, you have to understand, and we spent decades in AI trying to build machines that can answer any question. But Yahoo made a machine that can answer any question. It's called Knowledge Plus. It's a machine made out of millions of people connected together, creating unique value. Because from a business model point of view, you couldn't pay millions of people to answer questions. But what you can do is create new values where people you normally think of as consumers or as your audience for your content become producers of value. producers of value in the system. And today we'll talk about a number of ways that works. So when you think of digitizing, going from print to digital, it's not just about digitizing content, it's about connecting two people who you would normally think of as just consumers to become producers and suppliers of value for you. And very importantly, in terms of the value chain for social media, is we're seeing the nature of advertising changing through social media. And we'll talk about this as well, is that what social media can become is an advertising system in which people say what they're interested to in each other and share marketing messages with each other. What does that mean? The most important form of advertising is what? Not a billboard, not even web advertising, it's word of mouth. It's what you say to each other and your friends about what you love and what you're interested in. If I say, hey, did you read this article in this magazine? Did you read this book? It's fantastic. Oh, you have to read Angels and Demons. I know one of the publishers here is publishing that. Alice, Amy, yes. That word of mouth that people share with each other is priceless for an advertiser. What social media is making possible, now that so many of our relationships happen online, so much of our communications happens online, is the possibility of advertising and marketing to enable person-to-person communication to be a new form of marketing and advertising. And so social media is also an advertising system in which people share promotional and marketing messages with each other. Not because they're paid to, but because they believe and they love it and they advocate for what you actually want. As I mentioned before, social media is also a new approach to solving hard problems in networked information systems. So in the example of Yahoo Knowledge Plus, Yahoo Answers, we've created a machine that can answer questions, something that would be impossible without people connecting to each other. In examples I will show you today through Flickr and other products at Yahoo, we're enabling us to be the eyes of the world, to see what is happening all around us. None of the publishers in this room can hire 1 million or 10 million or 100 million reporters. It's not economically feasible. But in a way, what Yahoo has created is a news network that has millions and millions and millions of reporters. All of you that take pictures or blog and upload that to the internet. And so when you think of digital content, you have to again understand that there are things from a business point of view that you could never do in the old model that become possible when you connect billions of people together as producers, not only consumers of content. And so ultimately what social media becomes are the platform systems and applications that connect media, content, billions of pieces of it now, technology, billions of devices, and billions of people into one network that can produce value and that can process and solve hard problems. So let me give you a little historical framework for understanding where we are today and where we're going. Are there any computer scientists in the room or programmers? If you can raise your hand if you study computer science. Okay, so you'll help me out here if I have any questions. So back in the early days, before there were real computers, when people were thinking about what computers could become, there was a branch of science called cybernetics, Norbert Wiener, McCullough, and others, who imagined systems that connected humans and computers, that's the H and the C, not hydrogen and carbon, but humans and computers, together into a network. And what you would design, the system, would be this entire system of humans and computers together. And so the discipline, for example, of computer-human interaction, people that study how to design computer interfaces, came from what was called human factors, the human factor in a human and computer system. When we built computer systems 40 years ago and had PCs 20 years ago and now mobile phones, there was this thing with the PC where we began to lose an understanding of what a system was that included lots of people and lots of devices. We thought of the user, the computer, and interface, and that was just the system. And so in designing applications and designing services, most people just focused on the user interface, the user, and the machine. And they lost sight of where the real value is created in social technologies. It's created in what you can think of as large-scale socio-technical systems. As we said, systems made out of not only computers, systems made out of ultimately millions to billions of people that connect together. So the internet is not just a repository of documents. It's not just a set of pages and links that you access. The internet, what people often call Web 2.0, is an internet of people and media connected together into a network. And when you design this network, you think about design in a very different way. If you think of Yahoo Answers, for example, when we were making the US edition, I was asked, should we give people money for answering questions? I said, no, we should not do that. And I said, why? I said, well, you want people that do this because they love to do it, because you can't scale paying people. Google, at the time, released a product called Google Answers. It doesn't exist anymore, because it was based on paid experts. And so when you understand how to incent people to participate, one of the insights I think we have at Yahoo is that everyone is a nerd about something. Everyone is a nerd about something. Each and every one of you has something that you're passionate about, that you're interested enough about, that you care enough about to share that knowledge with other people. And what Yahoo has been creating over the past few years, and creates even more in the future, are the socio-technical systems to connect people together, to use that passion and that knowledge to really change the world and to make it a better place. I think Yahoo Knowledge Plus is a great example of that. Now, when you design systems like this, you're not designing an application or a user interface. What you're designing is the network, the topology. How do people connect to each other? If you look at the differences, for example, between Facebook and MySpace, many of the most fundamental differences are about the ways you can connect to people, whether you can publicly reach people or you have to be invited, whether you have private groups or whether you have public groups. What's that? Oh, pointer, thank you. Cool, I got a laser pointer, great. So how do users connect to each other? And different connections of people, just like different connections of machines, have different effects. And so the design of these systems, you need to understand how users connect to each other. And when we think of this network, what kind of data and metadata, data about the data, flows over this network? What can people share? What can they not share? And very importantly, how do you design and optimize certain activities of these nodes? How do you incent people to participate as individuals, as groups, and collectively? See, part of my own background is actually in rhetoric, in the discipline of understanding how to convince people to do things. And in many ways, social technologies are giant rhetorical systems. They're systems that provide incentive and inspire people to participate in certain ways. And as our friends here in the government will understand, when you can get people to work together, you can achieve amazing things. And what social technologies are doing is they are creating new forms of social organization that incent people to work together to solve fundamental human problems. And companies like Yahoo and companies in the room really are in the business of connecting people together in new ways to solve fundamental human problems and incenting people to participate and to become involved in shaping our collective future. Now, as a designer and a scientist and an inventor and a futurist, part of what is crucial in this are the new technologies for monitoring and measuring and analyzing the state and the dynamics of these socio-technical networks. This is really one of the new sciences that is emerging now. Sometimes we refer to it as computational social science. A new science of human behavior and understanding based on having data we never had before. Just in social science alone, if you look at the data that Facebook or MySpace or Yahoo has, we now know the social relationships of millions of people and how they connect to each other. What before was a very slow discipline of social science or sociology now has access to new data to understand human behavior and to help create a model of how people relate and what they find interesting. So this ability to create the metrics is crucial and to create the analytics, and it's an emerging science. What becomes exciting too is how do you design ways to take what's the topology, how do people incent, what is the data and the metadata that flows over the network, what are the behaviors of the nodes, the state and the dynamics, and how do you iteratively modify and all of the above? How do you create a living, breathing social socio-technical system that you can actually design and change in real time? Well, that's yahoo.com. If you think about it. And we have many technologies for bucket testing, for trying things out, for testing them, for tweaking this very complex but very powerful socio-technical system for solving fundamental human needs and problems. Now, one of the exciting things is that this requires not just the knowledge of programmers or engineers, or of marketing or business people, or of designers, or of product managers. It really requires the knowledge of humanists and social scientists. So if you come from a background where you've studied psychology, sociology, anthropology, philosophy, linguistics, literary theory, those are part of my background, right? I've used those tools in the humanities and the social sciences together with technology and business to help understand and design the future of digital content and the internet. So it is a radically interdisciplinary effort. Because if you don't understand how human beings behave and what motivates them as individuals, as collectives, as society as a whole, you can't design these technologies effectively. So we have brought in throughout the years at Yahoo, since I've been there, social scientists working together with technologists, with business people to create these systems. So if you're building a team to create social media, have someone that understands people. It helps. All right. I hope you're with me. Now, when you look at these different socio-technical systems, human beings can have different types of roles in relationship to digital content. How many of you are familiar with the book, The Long Tail? Can you raise your hand if you know The Long Tail? Okay, fair number of people. So in The Long Tail, there's a diagram in it that actually I and my students created, which is referred to as the architecture of participation. And so this is a model we've used to understand social media systems and the roles that humans can have within it. Very important to these systems is the metadata, the information about the content that helps us understand what it is and to route it. Some of it is made explicitly, some of it implicitly. So one of these models, this is a famous 2x2. Business people love to create these in biz school, and they're very useful. Because you get a model where we say, okay, the people that make media and describe it explicitly, those are producers, both mainstream and social media producers. And the people that consume it and create implicit data, those are consumers. Then you say, what are the other two boxes? What do those people do? Well, they prove to be incredibly important to the creation of social media systems and the future of content. One are the enthusiasts. Remember we said that everyone's a nerd about something? Yahoo Groups, as I'll say in a moment, has 110 million people in 7 million groups. There is a group for every imaginable interest or passion in the world. And those groups not only produce content, but they describe it. And if you're a digital publisher, what is it worth to you to get people that love your content, will say everything about it, will share it with other people, will advocate for it, will describe it, will review it? That's where you get passion in relationship to your content. So enthusiasts are the fans and critics and people who don't make the media, but they'll tell you all sorts of things about it. The people who will describe it in great detail. But we also see the emerging category of remixers. And many of you have done this. How many of you have ever created a playlist? A playlist, a list of music songs that you want to hear in order? Anyone? Any of you? Did you guys translate that correctly? How many of you have a portable digital music player that you listen to? Okay, if people have them with them. And you've created a list of songs you want to hear? So you're a remixer. Because you've taken things that were created by publishers to be in one form, and you've combined them into another one. So if your teenage daughter makes the dance party mix, or if your teenage son makes the great music for riding a motorcycle to, they've created new content by remixing existing assets. And as a publisher, one thing I want you to understand is that if you think of the value of your assets as just being the assets you have, you're missing something. It's all the useful recombinations of those assets that you can then sell again. And who's going to make those useful recombinations? Your readers. Because they're going to mash up the content. We've seen this in music, but it happens in all sorts of things. What are the best selections from a newspaper? Readers will tell you that. What are the excerpts you want to have from a book? Readers can tell you that too. If I want to read books about Taipei, what are the 5 titles I should read? Right? All of those are examples of remix, of mashup, of not producing new content, but recombining it in new forms that have value. So this is the kind of social media and metadata ecosystem. But what's interesting is what are the types of data and metadata that flow from these different nodes in the network? So producers make media and they make metadata about it explicitly. Consumers, though, provide very valuable information. And this is something as publishers I really want you to understand. Consumers give you attention metadata. Who's reading what? Who's forwarding what? What part are they looking at? And we've done many, many examples of this, which I'll show you. That can tell you what's the most important part of an article or best part of a TV show, or which articles that I have should other users read. Consumers, once you instrument the technologies for digital delivery and consumption, you can learn a lot by what people read and what they watch and what they share. The enthusiasts, as we've mentioned, produce descriptive metadata. They'll tell you all sorts of things about the content. And again, in an economic model where you can't pay enough people to do this. But as publishers, if you create the right social media systems, you can leverage this information. And finally, the remixers make the new mashups and any metadata about how they mash things up and remix them. So this is the architecture of participation, the ways in which all of us can participate in a social media ecosystem, a new ecosystem for digital content. And we see this emerging all over the world and really exploding. And importantly, these aren't just people, they're roles. Each of us can be at times a producer, a consumer, an enthusiast, or a remixer. So if we look at the ecology and the ecosystem of digital content, the old model was broadcast mass media. In a sense, publishing, a small number of people make things that a large number of people consume, and that was it. That's not the world anymore. The world has changed fundamentally to something that looks much more like this. An ecosystem where publishers, producers, consumers, enthusiasts, and remixers are all sharing different types of information. And the design of this socio-technical system is how you capture the most value. So so going digital as a publisher is not just about scanning pages. It's about creating the socio-technical systems and the social media ecosystem that will capture new forms of value from your content that your readers can help produce by becoming enthusiasts, consumers, remixers, and producers themselves. So, one of the nice things about working at Yahoo is that we get to do this at very large scales, and things become interesting at large scales. And the comment about Yahoo News, I believe it was, having a lot of the sources that you made in your intro, working together with us, we can achieve this scale to get you the knowledge and information to deliver this superior value. We have over 500 million people that visit Yahoo every month. 1 out of every 2 users online. 240 million people use Yahoo Mail worldwide, one of the most interesting social systems in the world. And of course, in Taiwan, we're fairly popular, which we appreciate very much. That scale gives you the ability to touch millions of people, to connect to them in a way that in the current model, if you're just publishing your own content, you cannot. So companies like Yahoo have an important role in enabling and supporting and creating these large-scale socio-technical systems for digital content. As I said, one of the crucial examples, I know this is not in Taiwan, but in the US and globally, Yahoo Groups is a very important example of this, where we have over 100 million people in 7 million groups with billions of messages about almost any topic in the world, right? A massive social technical system. Answers, one of my favorites, of course, originated in Taiwan. And really, this is a model beyond a web of pages and data. It's a web of people. Answers really connects a person with the people that can help answer that question, either stored or ultimately in real time. And we see this as a great example of a socio-technical system that can solve fundamental human problems, answer any question, and get an answer from real people. Now, another socio-technical system that I love in particular is Flickr. Flickr is Yahoo's photo sharing system, which we actually acquired a couple years ago, and has really affected a lot of how Yahoo thinks about social media. And so one of the ways I would start my day using Flickr is to see what all my friends have just taken a picture of. Right? This is a snapshot of what are my people paying attention to? What do they find interesting in the world? What are they seeing? Flickr is the eyes of the world, but it's also the eyes for you among your friends. So Flickr has provided, and these next 4 slides are from Bradley Horowitz, who actually helped acquire Flickr. He's gone off to Google, but he had a good time at Yahoo when he was here. And to understand how Flickr works as a socio-technical system. So number one, we're not paying people to take pictures, right? People are freely and gladly taking fantastic photographs. And I'm talking about photos that are some of the most beautiful, interesting photos in the world. because we've created an environment that encourages participation and sharing. So users generate the content. Users also organize the content. They literally add the metadata. They will tag the photos, and they can tag each other's photos to add more information. So that effort, the enthusiasts who love the photos can add more metadata. But we also get metadata from consumption, and this is one of the most important things to understand. Users help us organize the photo content because of what we call interestingness. So this is from the Flickr website. There are lots of elements that make something interesting or not on Flickr. Where the click-throughs are coming from, because remember, they're not necessarily anonymous clicks. If you're signed in, we know this user clicked on this photo who has these Flickr contacts. So the social graph of how people are connected is connected to the attention that they pay. So that's the difference between a small number of people clicking a lot versus a large number of people clicking a little, versus a group of people that are all connected clicking versus people that don't know each other clicking. And each of those patterns have different types of affordances and can tell you different types of things about what type of content it might be. And not just clicks, but comments, favoriting, tags, and many, many more things that are instrumented in how people consume and share and produce metadata about that content. And as a result, every day, we get photos like this. So out of the 3 billion photographs in Flickr, we are able to understand automatically what the most interesting photos are based on how people consume and share information about it. So when you go to interesting photos, you see photos that you would think were shot by professional photographers. Usually not. They just happen to be incredibly beautiful, interesting, provocative photographs taken by people like all of us. But when you have enough scale and you have the right socio-technical systems, you can surface content like this. Third point, users can distribute content for you. And so Flickr was designed in a way that people could put badges on their blogs. Both on and off the Yahoo network, content went out from Yahoo and brought users back in. So users can distribute. And the way Flickr was also designed is that users could develop new functionality on top of the system we created. There are hundreds and hundreds of Flickr applications that use the Flickr API, the way to access photos and tags and people on the network. So here's an example of someone who doesn't work at Yahoo made an application where you can spell any word with pictures. So here you can spell content 2.0 using photos that are tagged with the letters of the English alphabet. So this is an app written by a third party using photos tagged by people who may not have taken them, by photos taken by people who may not know each other, creating a new application out of value. It's a great example of what I'm talking about, of a socio-technical system in an ecosystem, producers, consumers, enthusiasts, and remixers to make new type of value. And this is the world that publishers are going into, not one of just digitizing content, but of going into a social media ecosystem with new types of value. So users can generate content, they can organize it, they can distribute it, and they can even develop functionality on top of it. That's what makes Flickr work. Now, one of the really interesting things about Flickr is that of the 3 billion photos, over 100 million photographs are geotagged, meaning that we know where they were taken. And what's even more exciting for me is that almost all of these were manually geotagged. People dragged the photo onto a map. Why is that interesting? Well, because I think in the next few years, we will have billions of geotagged photos once people geotag them in a different way, which I'll show you in a moment. So, we've talked about the social web, Web 2.0, socio-technical systems that connect billions of people, computers, and media together into working networks. But there's another place that people spend a lot of their time besides the internet. It's called the world, and you should go there. It's a nice place. The world is all around us every day, and what connects the web and the world is a device that most of you probably have in your pockets. The mobile phone, of which in the last 4 years, we have grown from 2 billion phones in the world to 4 billion phones globally. So when you're thinking of the future of digital content, what I encourage you to do is to think about mobile. And here's why. We are believing that mobile will be an ecosystem with billions of people, right? There are 4 billion phones in the world today. Most of those people in the next few years will be on the internet on their phones. You'll have the phone will be the most common platform for internet consumption and production globally. It may not seem that way now. I know that data is expensive in Taiwan. I know a lot of people aren't yet using the internet here. But believe me, in a few years, when data gets cheap enough, maybe this year we hope, but in a few years when it's cheap enough and the devices are good enough and the networks are fast enough, meaning 3G, a smartphone, affordable data, and the content and services like Yahoo Mobile are available, billions of people will be online through their phones. And that will change content forever, and we'll see how. Because let's think about what a phone is. How many of you have your cell phones with you now? Everyone, right? Almost everyone here has a cell phone. Now, if you think about what is a phone, so one of the things we've done at Yahoo Mobile in designing our services and thinking about the future of content is really examined what a phone is. So first and foremost, it's a personal device carried on the body. You have it with you basically all the time. It's, as we say in English, the 24/7 computer, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The most personal and the most ubiquitous computer in the world. Intel did a study about what are the 3 things that people take who live in cities, and I think it was Los Angeles, Tokyo, and London. What do they take when they leave in the morning? Phone, keys, wallet. And in many countries, the phone is becoming the wallet. And you can even imagine becoming the keys. So the most essential, ubiquitous personal computer carried by billions of people every day. Used globally as a voice communication device, 2-way. Obviously a very important text communication device given SMS, but increasingly with IM and email on phones. And increasingly becoming a media consumption device, not just for text content, but for photos, video, and audio. Music players, phones are music players. They're also video players as well. My son, he's 8 years old, Zev, and we have a wonderful LCD screen, I believe actually made in Taiwan, and 42-inch HD screen. I love it. And he said, "Can we download Star Wars Clone Wars, which he loves, onto my iPhone?" I said, "Zev, you've got the TV, you can watch it on." He said, "I want to have it with me wherever I go." Right, so mobile consumption, while it may seem counterintuitive that people would want to watch TV on their phone or why can't I want a newspaper like this? No, because it's mine and I can take it with me wherever I am. And that idea of the personal, portable, ubiquitous device that billions of people have with them, it's becoming a very, very important way of consuming content. Now, as we've already talked about, the largest digital camera maker in the world is, what do you think? Canon, Nikon, Olympus? Nokia. Nokia is the largest digital camera maker in the world. And this is very, very important for thinking about the future of content, because what they've told us, and they've said this publicly, is in the next few years, you will have high-definition video cameras built into camera phones. And over WiMAX or LTE, you're looking at a world in the next 5 or 10 years of billions of high-definition video cameras connected to the internet. So any of you in the news business here? How many people do news or newspapers? Any news folks? No? Okay. Any folks involve any video or photos in their content? A couple. Everyone else is print. Is that right? How many people are print publishers? Okay, a few. So if you think of where people are going, we're looking at the phone not only as a text production device, not only as a photo production device, but as a video production device on the scale of the entire world. And here's the point I want you to really get. While everything I've just said is incredibly important about understanding mobile and its relationship to digital content, the next point is the most important. Because the phone, unlike a digital camera, unlike even a laptop, is a sensor and a device in a sensor network. Phones know where I am. They know what time it is. And because it's a personal device, it basically knows who I am. And it changes the nature of content by connecting it to the real people in the real world, and becomes a prosthetic, a way that extends human capability. Like my glasses help me see. If I have a hearing aid, it helps me hear. If I have a heart pump, it keeps me alive. No heart pump, no hearing aid, just glasses. It becomes a prosthetic device that connects me to other people, and then it connects me to knowledge and information all around me. So when we think of the phone this way, what you come to understand is that mobile connects us to the people and things we care about on the web and in the world, wherever we are. And this vision of mobility transforms the nature of what digital content can be and will become. And the framework we've used to talk about this is what we call W4, which stands for where, when, who, and what. So think about your day. Each of you moves through space, you move through time, you move through social space. Our meeting here together, right? Each of you got up this morning, you had breakfast hopefully, you went to work perhaps, you talked to friends, you were paying attention to all sorts of different things. But now we've come together in this room in the National Library at the Taiwan Digital Publishing Forum, listening to me talk. And you'll be talking soon when you ask questions. So we have a density of human attention here and now in this room. Now what you would think of as being kind of invisible, if you will, our attention, and not recorded, the fact that we're here, mobility changes that. Because a mobile phone has the technology to understand that we're all here right now together. Through Wi-Fi or GPS or cell tower, we can know our location. Through Bluetooth, you can even know who's in this room, protecting privacy the whole time. You can know what time it is. You can connect to a calendar, the schedule, the notes you're taking, the photos you're taking. What this you have to imagine is that all digital content, when it's connected to mobility, can become a trace of human attention throughout your day, and can be connected to the context in which it's created. So if we think of Alice going about her day, and let's say she's focused on this event now, and then Tom and Joe and millions of other people, we build models of human attention in the real world. What people are, who you are and who you know, where you are and where you go, what you're interested in, and when you do these things. And this capability to understand human attention in the world is what W4 makes possible. And we do this in a way where we protect people's privacy. We build trust with our users by providing clear notice and choice. They have control over this information. We think about and design privacy when we start and throughout the process. We give users control of their information, but importantly, provide benefit. Luke Wroblewski, who's a designer at Yahoo, says, "I tell Yahoo what I like, and it brings me the world I want." See, this capability of understanding where we are in space and time and social space is fundamental to content, because the most precious thing in the world is what? And it's human attention, right? The fact that you're all here spending your precious time that you have with me now to have this conversation, I truly appreciate. And that's the thing of which there's very limited supply, is your time and attention. And for our business, we're in the attention business. Our job is to understand what people pay attention to provide things they want to pay attention to, and to connect that attention in a meaningful way to advertisers. So what W4 makes possible, what you see in this network of where, when, who, and what, is the future of understanding human attention. And these systems are very important. What we're seeing in social systems are the attention we pay to each other, what's called contact attention, the attention we pay when we notice what other people are noticing, which is called joint attention. All of these are starting to become intelligible through the technology of mobile phones, which provides things that were not available before in understanding human attention and how it relates to the content that we produce, consume, and share. So let me give you some sense to understand how this actually works, because I think this will be useful for you. Place, language of place, is basically hierarchical. We're in this room, in this building, in this part of Taipei, in the district that Taipei is in Taiwan, in this part of Asia, in the hemisphere, and then the globe, solar system, on and up. And Yahoo has technologies which help us understand where you are. Looking at Wi-Fi and cell tower, we're able to actually model based on the phones, knowing where these beacons are located, whether it's cell tower or Wi-Fi, to know where users are. Right? So that's one of the basics. But we also have created technology called FireEagle, which gives users the power to share that information with other services. So let's say you're a publisher and you have really great travel information for Taipei, or you have restaurant reviews, or you have articles about the different sites in Taiwan. It would be very nice to provide that content to a person who is from out of town traveling here and wants to know where to go. So as publishers, you have valuable information that is tied to location, and that would be relevant to a person at a given place and at a given time. So FireEagle makes it possible for us to share user location with third parties like yourselves. So in FireEagle, there are applications that update location. So my phone, when I take a picture, knows where I am. It goes to FireEagle, and I've said to FireEagle, you can share my location with Facebook. And so, let me see if that's up and running. So we have a way not only to share that with Facebook, but to share it with all sorts of applications all around the world, with users having control over that information. And so part of the basic infrastructure for location is being able to go from neighborhood to zip to city to county to state to country. And Yahoo has created that capability. We use it in FireEagle so I can share my location at different levels. And we have in our GeoPlanet platform, we purchased a company a few years ago called Where on Earth. And they created a unique asset. They've created a database of all the regions all over the planet, neighborhoods, districts, cities, counties, states, all over the world, and have created unique identifiers so that we know a unique permanent global ID open to developers via GeoPlanet, which is language neutral. So we know that London is Londres, Londres. I think that looks like katakana script in Japanese, for those who know. United States, Italiani, Stati and then the US. Provides a means to employ geography consistently globally across all applications. So when you think of the internet, you normally think of pages and websites and IP addresses. But the internet, by bringing the web and the world together, is also about places, real places in the world. And as publishers, you can start to think of regions and places as being part of the structure of the internet. And that's what Yahoo's making possible. Now, time is an incredibly important thing to understand, too. The difference between weekend versus weekday, day versus night. The fact that we're here right now for the next hour or so having a conversation. And so in upcoming, we actually have ways for users to create events and then calendar to describe it. I actually created one for this event now, and so my photos will be connected to it automatically that I take, because it knows that I'm here now taking pictures. So ways for users to share their events all around the world. And we also, of course, in addition to where and when, what's becoming part of the structure of the internet is who you are and who you know. So what I'll show in a few minutes is a product we have called OneConnect, which aggregates all of my social networks together and all of the updates from all of my networks together. So I have a list of all the people I know all over the world, and I'm able to get content from them wherever I am and wherever they are. So that graph of who people are and how they're connected is an incredibly important part of the future of content for the reasons we've talked about. Social content, people producing, sharing, distributing, commenting upon, recommending content. Part of it is knowing who you know. And the other part of W4 is the topical graph, the concepts and interests that people have. Baseball, soccer, movies, and the rest. And Yahoo, through Yahoo Mobile and what we call One Place, allows users to say the things they're interested in. The city I'm visiting, the fact that I'm like American Idol, that I'm following news about Yahoo, that I'm interested in what the San Francisco Giants are doing, my local movie theaters. I'm telling Yahoo what I want, and it's bringing me the world I like. So knowledge as a publisher about what people are actually interested in, rather than just saying I'm selling things to people aged 35 to 45 females, the understanding of those users and who they are and what they want is becoming more and more available. So ultimately what you have in W4 is a model of data connected to real metadata, real places, real times, real people in the world, and then the interests that people have as they map that way. So W4 is about a framework for digital content that uses real-world metadata to help us understand what that content means. And Yahoo has created technology in each of these areas and is beginning to connect them all together. So the reason this is important for us, of course, is that by understanding who you are and who you know, where you are and where you go, what you're interested in and when you do these things, we can improve the content and service personalization, recommendation, and the monetization of content by making it more relevant for more people all over the world. And this really will change the nature of advertising. And here's why. So I've been very fortunate that my hosts and colleagues here have taken me to fantastic Chinese vegetarian restaurants, and I'm very grateful for that. Last night was fantastic. But when I go to a city, and I'm a vegetarian, and by the way, I love Chinese vegetarian food, especially temple cuisine, mock meat, everything. I love it. And also tofu pea, I love it. It's great. Tofu skin, it's the greatest. But there are many places I could go eat in Taiwan. And so if there are restaurants that friends of mine have recommended that they think are great, and if I'm here and I get a promotion saying, hey, George says this is the best Chinese vegetarian restaurant in Taipei, and I have a coupon to go there, and I get that at 6 o'clock near dinner time, is it an ad? No, it's a gift. So advertising can change from annoyance, which is things you really don't want to see, to information, which is useful and valuable, to a gift. Messages delivered by people you trust, giving you value that really is right for you, things that are meaningful for you. And W4, knowing where, when, who, and what about people. In exchange for that knowledge, we can provide and give advertisers the ability to really make advertising be a gift. That's the vision of where I think we're going, in meeting fundamental human needs in a way that is meaningful to human beings. And I think that's really the future of where advertising will be. So another way of conceptualizing all that we've talked about, give you a frame for thinking about it, is if you're thinking about digital content, if you're just thinking about content, you're missing the picture. Content becomes much more valuable when it's triangulated against context and community, against the actual places and times where it's made and shared and described and consumed, the people who are producing it, consuming it, sharing it, and describing it, and who they know, and the content itself. And what we found in our research is that in each of these points in the triangle, you improve the performance of each by understanding the others. So I'll give you an example. We built a face recognition system many years ago that leveraged these techniques. So if I take a picture right now, what's the probability that that picture is of my daughter? 0. She's not here. She's either asleep or at school right now. So traditional content systems would just look at the pixels and try to figure out who's in the photo. But by knowing where the photo was taken and when, you can actually analyze it better. The likelihood is that I'll photograph Matthias, who's my colleague at Yahoo. Right? That's more probable. And so knowing context helps you infer content. If I share a photograph with my mom that I took on Saturday at a soccer field, who do you think's in the picture? Probably my daughter, her granddaughter. Right? So that's where the community and the context help you infer the content. So each of these parts of the triangle help you better understand the meaning of the other parts of the triangle. And so when you're thinking of the future of digital content, don't forget context and community. They're what give you where, when, and who to better understand what. So I want to show you an example of these ideas in reality. So we built a prototype called Zone Tag, which illustrates some of these ideas. So actually, what I'll do, I'm going to do a live demo. Always risky, but what the heck. Okay, I'm going to take a picture of all of you. anyone doesn't want me to. And it's recommending the inside of the National Central Library audience. Because at this place, and at this time, those are the most likely things I'd be taking a picture of.
But when I look at photos like this, I see where are the places in the world where people find things of interest, but I don't know what they are. So what we did is we analyzed the user-generated content of the millions of geocoded photos on Flickr and created something called a tag map. So this is a map of San Francisco. How many people have been to San Francisco? So one of the things you know is that one of the most interesting places to go look at things in San Francisco is Alcatraz. Treasure Island has great views of the city. Quad Tower's one of the sites, the Golden Gate Bridge, baseball stadium, Japantown, and the rest. These points of interest are not from a database of points of interest that we bought. These are generated by users tagging their photos with what they find interesting. And because we know when these photos were taken and where and by whom, we also know that during the day, Alcatraz is a great place to visit in San Francisco. But at night, we can't go there. At night, go to the Great American Music Hall. There are fantastic concerts going on in San Francisco. And what you have to understand is what you're seeing is a collective amount of human attention of what people find worth paying attention to all around the world. And this exists for the whole planet and at different zoom levels as well. So what we've done at Yahoo is we've used W4 technology to understand who you are and who you know, where you are and where you go, what you find interesting and when you do these things. And we've used that understanding of mobility to create what we call Yahoo Mobile. And Yahoo Mobile is a way to enable users to discover what is interesting around them, to get answers through one search, to stay connected to the people that they care about, and to stay informed about the things that they care about. Remember we said mobile connects us to the people and things we care about, on the web and in the world, wherever we are. So that model of mobility and content changes the nature, for example, of search. So if you think of the internet as a set of pages and links, you're missing out on what mobile search is really about, and I think what content is really about. Because if I'm looking for sushi in San Francisco, or great vegetarian food in Taipei, or an interesting place to go in the city, what I don't want are sushisanfrancisco.com or nationalmuseum.com. What I want is the thing in the world that I actually am interested in. So what one search does is it understands that string, Sushi San Francisco, and says, oh, this is about sushi restaurants in San Francisco, and connects me to the actual restaurants which are represented here. It goes from strings to things. So content is less about the pages on the internet than it is about the real things in the world that people are interested in, the ability to connect to them. Right, I'm going to check here. Okay. Oh, too slow. Too slow. I'll tell you what's there. What you would see if the internet were a little bit faster here is that in the Presidio, there's a big tag on the tag maps for Yoda. You guys know who Yoda is from Star Wars? Yes, Yoda. My son loves Star Wars. And it turns out that in the middle of San Francisco in the park, there's a bronze statue of Yoda in the park. And no map would have told me that. But people taking pictures and tagging them help me discover interesting things in the world. Users help you discover interesting content. All right, now back to people. If we think of the future of content, one of the type of content people care the most about is other people. We want to stay connected with people in our lives. And so we've reinvented mobile communication in the following ways. This is very important to understand about the future of content is how people communicate with each other. Because one of the best ways to promote and make content valuable, as we said, is to have users do that on your behalf. And so new forms of communication are emerging. One is what we call ambient awareness, and there's a wonderful article in the New York Times describing this. This is awareness of the presence and activity of people in your lives. So here's the example. I can email you and let you know what's going on, but then I'm directly messaging you. But I also can take the picture I just took, which has been uploaded to Flickr. I can also, for example, go in and update the status. So I'm a terrible typist, that's why I say and talk. I'm hoping my talk is going well, and I'm letting my friends know on Facebook, Friendster, MySpace, and Twitter. Now, I'm not emailing them, I'm not SMSing them, I'm not directly messaging them. I'm doing a really personal broadcast out to the people in my life, just like when I took a photo of all of you, I've now put out a piece of text. So my mother will read this, and will hundreds of my friends and colleagues. So this form of ambient awareness of what's going on in people's lives is transforming communications today. And what's really important about this is that this improves communication in interesting ways. So by understanding that I'm here giving this talk, probably not a good time to call me on the phone, right? Please, now they know I'm giving a talk. So we're improving the nature of mobile communications by giving awareness, presence, and activity. However, after the fact, people will probably come and say, oh, your talk went well. Right? So this form of ambient communication improves communications by being aware of what people are doing now and when they're doing it. But it also occasions communication by having people broadcast what they're doing and encouraging people to comment. The dinner that we had last night, I took a picture of, and people that I know said, looks delicious. Right? The photos that I've taken here, people will comment on and add. So human engagement with the world, with the web, and each other is being captured in new ways by these social technologies. So what OneConnect does is it combines indirect broadcast ambient communication with direct communication like SMS and email. And it also has a model of communication which is people-centric rather than channel-centric. And this is really revolutionizing the nature of the internet, where we can communicate with people rather than through channels. And I'll show you what that means in just a second. What we're also doing is namely open aggregation. If I can produce in one place and publish anywhere, I can publish anywhere and consume in one place. And I can do this in a uniquely mobile way, socially connected, location aware, temporally situated. So let's see what I mean. So open aggregation, and this is an important model for publishing overall, is that when I did my status text, or ultimately when I take my photo with my status text, it's going out to all these different places. Right, so users can publish to multiple networks. And then, if Matthias, for example, is updating something on Facebook or MySpace or Twitter or Flickr or Delphi, rather than going to all these places and figure out what's up with him, because I'm connected to him in those ways, I can get that all in one connect. Because it's centered around people that I know rather than networks or channels of communication. So, what we're solving is a fundamental human problem. It's a complex world. There's lots of ways to communicate with people and stay in touch with them. But what we've discovered is that we want to enable you to keep up with everybody without going everywhere. And that's what OneConnect does. All of your contacts across all of your networks. And this idea of having a graph of all the people in your life with you wherever you go. There's a beautiful story called by Mircea Eliade and Sacred Profane. There's a tribe of Aborigines in Western Australia, and they live in a vast, trackless desert. They're never lost, ever. You think, how do they navigate? And what they carry with them is, he said, well, how do you do it? He said, you see that pole there? And they pointed to a large pole and said, that's the 10th pole of the sky. It's the center of the universe. So wherever we go is the center of the universe, and our people are always with us. That's what the new internet is becoming. Wherever you go is the center of the universe, and your people are always with you. Because of your ability to know where you are, it's important to stay connected to the people that you care about. That ability to stay connected. So in this address book, rather than just being a name and a number, we get the latest status for Brenda from the network. We also can communicate with her through multiple channels because it's people-centric rather than channel-centric. And her pulse for ambient activity, photos, blog posts, status text updates, trips she's taking, are all available to me on that contact card. So as we said, I can get status text updates, which I push out in the network, but I also can consume them from my friends, from the network. And do this in a way where I can also integrate all forms of messaging communication. So what we're seeing again is rather than thinking about email, IM, SMS, having continuous threads and the ability to communicate across multiple channels between people. And the ability to favorite the people in my life. So let me show you something here. So if I go to OneConnect, I can communicate over different mail systems, different messaging systems. So these are all the different people in my life. I've got people across multiple networks, textually loading Facebook, Twitter, loading different ones, photos from Flickr, the rest. What we're seeing is that if you're thinking about the role of content, people are communicating every day, sharing information with each other about the things that they're about. One thing we found in analyzing this type of media, people talk about books and movies and actors and actresses and things they're interested in. They ask questions about, hey, there's actually Tom that posted the status text. I'll show you an example. I hope Tom's okay with this. That's Tom Coates. He's actually one of the creators of Fireball. I'll go to an older update and I'll show you something he said. Lots of stuff from my friends. So you can see the stream of information that people have in their lives. And much of it, interestingly enough, is about the content that they're interested in sharing, consuming. I want to get back. Boy, my friends have been incredibly busy. What is the best one? Here, look at this. What should I read? Send interesting articles and books to this address. As a publisher, what would you like to do in that discourse? What should I read? People are asking each other these questions all the time. What movie should I see? What book should I read? What's the best news source? This type of communication is happening ambient, and this is being broadcast out to hundreds and hundreds of people every day. So you're seeing these emerging social media and forms of communication where people are helping each other navigate and figure out what is the content they should actually consume. So what I want you to understand is that by aggregating all this social content together, you have the possibility of connecting to people's conversations and what they want to actually consume. Incredibly powerful aspect of this technology. Thanks for your patience. Okay, I want to show you something else. Almost done. Okay, we've also not only reinvented mobile communications by doing open aggregation, publishing out, and consuming in, but we're reinventing mobile content. So, as we've said in OneSearch, what we've done is move from the internet not to pages and strings, but to real things. And what we've done in mobile content is given people the ability not just to bookmark a web page, but to bookmark, if you will, the object that they're actually interested in. The ability to add anything, both from RSS feeds and non-RSS feeds. And to do this in an open aggregated way, in a way that's uniquely mobile. Let me show you what I mean. There are over 50 different types of entities that we support. Stocks, celebrities, sports leagues, sports teams, locations, sporting events, clubs, companies, everything. Really, in a sense, many of the objects in the world that people find worth paying attention to. And so, keeping track of all the things that interest you can be tough. Because your content is in so many places. And mostly on your PC. So how do you keep up? By putting everything in one place. This is an example of Yahoo Mobile, which will be released shortly. Globally, it's in private beta now. and should be in Taiwan this year, is that I have OneSearch, the ability to connect with things that I care about by discovering them and finding answers on them. I have the Today module on Yahoo to know what people find interesting. I have the searches that other people are making so I can actually understand what content people are paying attention to all around the world. OneConnect, the various services that show me. And importantly, Yahoo News, weather for different cities, stocks, articles from the New York Times, the different blogs that I follow. All available on my mobile phone, all available on the mobile internet. But I want to show you this idea. So I've created and customized the mobile internet for me on my phone and all my different content sources. But I also can add anything. And this is a way of thinking about your content, not just as pages, but look what I'm going to show you. I can add weather stocks from my Yahoo headlines, theaters, scores, and the rest. But I also can say, I'm interested in the Boston Red Sox, a sports team. And what one place does is it knows that the Red Sox are a sports team. I can get redsox.com if I want, but that's not very useful to me. I can get articles about the Red Sox, which can be useful, but I'm really interested in the Boston Red Sox. And so once I do that, on my homepage, I get the latest game for the Boston Red Sox. And if I click on it, this internet site, this mobile internet site, is automatically created by aggregating different content from the upcoming games, the team roster, news, photos, and the rest, all about the Red Sox. So when you're thinking about digital content, you want to think about how can you take your content resources and package them together into things that people are actually interested in and getting real-time updates about. Right? This connects lots of different content together around a common item of interest that people then can connect to and receive wherever they go. Okay, I know we're running short on time. So we've talked about discovery and getting answers. We've talked about OneConnect, which helps us stay connected through direct and indirect communication. We've talked about OnePlace, which allows me to stay connected to things that interest me. By having this aggregation of place, time, and people, and by having the connections of people to each other, new forms of advertising become possible. So if you say, well, how are you going to make money in this world? I know that's a question that many of the publishers have here. How are you going to make money? So today, most of the people make money through advertising this way. A brand pushes a message to the person. But this forgets something really fundamental. We're not alone. So social monetization makes possible brands with one person, but another person. And once you do this, you can imagine a world where a person can become a great fan of the brand. They can become an advocate. They can say, I really like this writer. I really like this newspaper. I really like this photographer. I really like this type of car or this type of waiver writer. And when the brand communicates with another person, they can leverage the endorsement of this person when they communicate. A very different model of advertising that is through social. Even more powerful is that this person can advocate and communicate the message to the prospect themselves. So you come to think of advertising in social media as a series of conversations that brands have with people, both prospects and advocates and prospects, and that people have with each other. This is really where the future of social marketing is going. And so there are kind of two main models there. Brands referring people, this is what Facebook does in their social ads today, and you've seen some stuff like this. And also people referring brands directly. What we've discussed today are systems that will make it possible for you as publishers to unleash and unlock the power of consumers who believe in your products to actually sell them for you, market them for you. All right, to sum up. I appreciate all the attention you've given today, and I hope the translators have done a good job on this. I assume they have. What's the future of the publishing industry? Well, the future, I think, looks like this. Number one is you connect content to community. Social production. Your users, your consumers, can directly make new content and metadata as producers, enthusiasts, and remixers. To really rethink the content industry of social production. Social distribution. Users, what you normally think of as consumers, can distribute and promote your content to their friends and to other networks and sites as enthusiasts and remixers. And social filtering, summarization, and recommendation. Users can explicitly and implicitly improve your content targeting through social metadata, like what I showed you with interestingness on Flickr. All of these technologies are there to help you connect content to community. Not a model of I sell a book to one person or I sell a book to an audience. I'm selling it into a network of people that are all connected to each other, where they can produce valuable content that I can help sell back. They can distribute content for me. They can help me discover what is the content that I want to actually pay attention to as another user. Each of these capabilities are made possible by the ability to integration of social networks with content networks. Importantly, though, we said also we want to connect content to context. We want to connect the what to the where and the when. So you want to add W4 contextual metadata content. So you can actually, and that adds new value to the assets. Even for assets you have, if I know that a given story is about a certain part of type A, I can then deliver that on a mobile phone to people who are in that part of type A. Right? So if you, and we have systems, what's called a content location engine, which will analyze the web page and pull out the cities and places that are talked about in there. So you can have automated techniques for doing this, for connecting content to context. Ideally, you want to do this when the content is made, like the photo that I took, the blog post that you want to make. All of the content that you have should be indexed by where and when and who and when, which allows you then to deliver contextually relevant content, content appropriate to the user's interests and intentions at the right place at the right time. And mobile phones are making possible the delivery of highly relevant and targeted content based on W4. And as I've shown too, you can make new content from contextualized content. For example, as publishers, if you think of the assets in your archive, you may know whether, if you think of analyzing that data, what are the most talked about places in type A? What are the most interesting places? What are the places that have the most relevant scientific content about it? You can analyze the content you have in context to create new content. That's what Tag Maps does. It analyzes photos and tags that are geocoded to tell us where they're interesting places. So you can think of your content repositories as things you can make new content from by having the right metadata. Think of it not just as a series of static pages, but as data and metadata that you can use to make new content. Clearly what I've said is mobile's your future. More people will consume and share content from mobile phones in the future than they do with on the PC, because it's the 24/7 computer, the key to any time, anywhere consumption and sharing of content. As I've said, imagine mobile will also enable people to produce content from mobile phones. 4 billion of them, ultimately with cameras, microphones, tech center connected to the sensor network and to each other. That is the content production and delivery platform of the future. And it will provide uniquely valuable data for monetization, knowing what your social network are interested in and where you are and where you lead. And finally, almost finally, I want you to understand that this ecosystem I described only really works if it's open. You want to be open with your users by opening up the creation, description, sharing, and remixing of content. If you're a book publisher or a magazine publisher, you want to create opportunities for people to refer to your content, to comment on your content, to rate your content, to share it with other people. One of the most valuable things that's happening now is what's called fan fiction, where people write stories in the universe of the story that they're interested in and share it with each other. That productive and creative and social activity around content, you want to make that available to other people. Like in the music example, playlists are part of what people want to have music as well. So think of how do you open up your content with the participation of users to make new value. But also be open with your partners. By enabling your content to go where users are, you can gain more users. You can learn more about them, and you can actually direct traffic back to your content. And obviously, I think Yahoo is a good place to do that. In other words, it's a place where by aggregating an audience, you can benefit from yourselves by knowing where users are, getting more users, learning more about them, and directing traffic back. We find that openness is one of the key principles of the evolving content ecosystem, the evolving social media and mobile media ecosystem. You're doing social, you're doing mobile, you're doing content. Because the more open the ecosystem is, the more we can learn about who people are, what they're interested in, and make those audiences valuable to us and to our partners. And by remixing your content, partner content, you can create new types of value, right? By mashing up maps, reviews, ratings, local, publishing content and the rest, you can create new types of services that bring this content together. So in sum, what I hope you've given you a vision of is that the future of digital content is that we connect people, the web, and the world to each other. Mobile being the primary means of connecting us to people and things we care about on the web and in the world, wherever we are. Ultimately, this will happen in real time. In the next few years, you'll see a world where billions of people are participating in real time at personal, social, and global levels. The content industry will come more and more to be a real-time responsive industry all around the world, where the things you produce are immediately commented upon, like the photos that I just took, which if we go back and look, probably already have comments on them, and where the value is not just in the content itself, but in what the community and the context do around it. This world will change us, the web, and the world. And the exciting thing is, while I talk about the future, and I hope you imagine the future of digital content, the platforms and products and services that will make this possible are happening now. The future is happening now. The capability for us to connect to each other, to connect to the web, and connect to the world, scale with billions of people, is emerging right now. And so I invite you in the Taiwan Digital Publishing Forum. I'll be there to join us, to participate in shaping that common future in which we actually can connect to each other in ways that make the world a far better place. So I thank you very much. Well, I need it.